Do you all know that brand with the compelling story can see up to 300% more engagement? That's crazy, right? But that's the power of brand storytelling. Welcome back to Mastery Podcast, where we share stories of impact-driven entrepreneurs to create that ripple effect of positivity. I am your host, Dr. Sass, and I support entrepreneurs to improve on their brand message and crush it on camera so they can attract more clients and create more impact. Today, we are diving into something that is super important for entrepreneurs, business owners, and marketers out there. It is about brand storytelling. Now, in 2024 and 2025 and beyond, to stand out in the crowded market, it is super important that you have a killer brand story. And that can literally be your secret weapon. So let's unpack how this brand storytelling can resonate with your audience on a deeper level and connect with them on a deeper level. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room, right? Many people, many brands struggle to tell their brand story, and they struggle to tell their authentic story, who they are, what they're about, what their brand is about. You might be struggling to figure out, how do I even start it? How can I even make my story interesting? How could that happen? And trust me, you're not alone. Many brands trying to fit into the mold that the society gives to them, right? To stand out in this crazy noise. And how can we extract that story that is truly belongs to our brand? It takes time and it takes work. So let's talk about that, how we can, not step by step, how we can look at the different elements of story brand telling and give you a few examples and how you can actually sit down and craft your own brand story. At first of all, what is your brand values? What is your values? Right? Why do you start this company, this business in the first place? And next, you want to understand your audience. What are their pain? What are the problems that you are trying to solve? And knowing their pain point is really important. That will help you craft the narrative of your story. Now let's talk about the emotional connection, right? I'm rubbing my hands together because it's cold in here. We have it's like getting to be fall time and the AC is still going. It's one of those time of the year that it's like too hot in the daytime to turn on the heater and too cold in the nighttime to turn on the AC, but we have the AC running, so at night it got cold, and now it's kind of like midday, but it's still freezing cold. So I'm like this, so don't do that. I'm gonna try to avoid doing this, rubbing my hand. But anyway, I digress. Let's talk about the emotional story of the brand, right? The brand story that really touches your heart, those are the story that really stuck with the audience, because that's how human are. That's how we function. That's how we are programmed. We programmed to connect with story that bring up different emotions. So when you think about brand like Nike, right? They don't sell shoes. They sell like empowerment and inspiration, right? There are stories behind their shoes. And Dove soap or Dove product. And when you look at their brand story, they're not selling soap or selling face cleanser and stuff like that. They are selling natural beauty and self-acceptance. So when people relate with your story emotionally, they're more likely to engage with your brand. So remember to keep your brand story, to infuse your story into your brand with relatable moments, and that showcase your value and invite your audience to join on your journey. So you see, telling story is more than just about facts telling, right? Nike doesn't come up and say, we use this product that make your shoes this thick and it is 90% decomposable and all this stuff. They don't give you all that facts. They tell you story of people who succeed with their, whatever that may be. They go running and then they voila, they succeeded. They go to finish line. That's the story. That's the storytelling of the shoes. And it's also about sharing the journey, right? The struggle and all the stuff along the way with the product that you provided. And it's amazing how when you tell little story like that, people remembers. They don't remember the nitty-gritty about your product, but they remember the story behind it, how it transformed the person's life, how your come about. And most people create a product because they have some story behind it. A lot of people create the product for themselves. They have a hard time finding these services. They have a bad service or bad product, or they couldn't find shoes that fit, for example, and those become the story behind their brand. So let me tell you a bit of the story about how I came to the US. So I remember very, very well the first time I stepped my feet on American soil. We landed in Alaska, of all places. We landed there at the airport before we go to New York and then West Virginia. But that's another story to tell. We landed there and I was sick as a dog. I was suffering from cold and my head was hurting and my body was aching. And we walked through the airport. And oh my gosh, this is the huge, huge airport. I thought I was landed in a foreign land, which I did. It's more like Mars compared to the small village that I used to live in, right? In Thailand. There's this bustling of noises, of people, and I was just hanging on to my family. I'm afraid I'm gonna get lost. So many people, and here's this little girl. I was barely 12 and sick as a dog and looking around, and I don't see anything that I recognize, but there was a lot of people. And as I look through the crowd, I see this glimpse of something huge, white. And so I just make my way there, and I stood there in awe. I was like, what is this big thing? White, fluffy, furry, right behind the glass cage. And it was a polar bear. I was like, oh my gosh, this thing is so huge. I look up and literally it was like from the ground up to this. It's like literally, it's huge, standing tall, gigantic, up to the ceiling, and almost. I mean, that's how I felt as a little girl. This huge, gigantic white polar bear. I was barely 12 and a short little Asian girl, and looking up at this white polar bear, and I know that moment in time that my life is about to change in a big way. Now, it's been over 40 years now. I still remember that day so vividly. And every time life get hard, and it did, if you've been through life for a few years, and there are some hard moments. And I just remember that moment that I stood in front of this majestic, huge polar bear, how powerful it is. And I want to feel powerful like that polar bear. When challenges come up in life, I just remember the significance of the meaning of that moment in my life. It reminds me to have the resilience. Doesn't matter what curveballs life throw at you. Doesn't matter how hard life gets, how hard the business gets, how hard it is everything in life, right? It is a challenge. I just remember that moment and remind me to be brave, to push through whatever is in front of me, to be powerful, to stand up strong. And that was my first experience in the United States. And now I felt like, and it has been, that the US have given me so much. It's free education, opportunities popping up everywhere, and the chance to build the life that I want, which if I were back in Thailand, thinking back, it would be hard for me to accomplish. For me, I am grateful for that moment, for the polar bear, for the moment that I landed on the American soil, and for the time that I have in this country, and for being its citizen. It gave me so much. And that polar bear, the strength that it signified, tell me all the time that I too can stand tall and face forward no matter what challenges I have. And that's my short story of how I landed on the American soil. Now, let me ask you this. I get emotional because I remember how I felt, because I know the significance of that journey of my life and how it shaped me to become who I am today. Aside from all the teary eyes and stuff like that, how many of you really was there with me? Let me ask you that question. You actually was in the airport with me. You saw the polar bear. You see this white furry polar bear. And that, y'all, is the power of storytelling. You want to draw people into your story. You want to invite people in to experience your emotion, to experience your surrounding. And you see how descriptive I was, how emotional infused I put into this story. And that's the power of storytelling. But that was my story. And let's give you the example of like the different brand story that you all know very well. Let's look at the powerful case study of Airbnb. I know you all know Airbnb. I've been staying at Airbnb many times, several times, going up to the mountains. Even sometime, there was one time we went to Switzerland, we stayed at Airbnb, and just to see how it is. And I know most of you had that experience. So what is the story behind Airbnb? So in 2014, Airbnb run this campaign that they call the Wall and Chain campaign. So there was a story of the East and West Berlin, right? The two men was living there. This man want to go back to Berlin, but he had mixed emotion about it. He realized how hard it was for him at that time when he was living there. So anyway, the guy went, and then he arrived at this Airbnb, and the person that owned Airbnb happened to be one of the guards, and they apparently have seen each other before. But to have that story where it brings two people from the different side of the wall together, and it changed that man perception of Berlin completely, and he was fine with the past, and now he faced with the reality that, hey, this guy wasn't a bad man at all, and it brings people together. It connects human being, and that's the story behind. Oh my gosh, you gotta watch this story. I'll put the link below in the description so you can watch the whole story. It's very short, and you can tell the power of the story, how they tell the story, how it shaped the brand of Airbnb. But that was the campaign that they launched in 2014, I believe. And the next story is about Dove. Dove, the soap, the facial lotion and all this stuff. They have many different products since then, but back then it was just soap. And they don't want to just sell soap, right? They want to sell the story of real beauty. So they launched this real beauty campaign back in, I don't have the date of when they run the campaign, but anyway, I'll put the link below so you can watch the whole story. And the whole story is they bring in a bunch of women, right? And the women describe themselves to the man who is the forensic artist, right? He sketches their picture as they describe themselves to the artist, and then they have a complete stranger describe that same woman to the artist, and the result was amazing. The one that the woman themselves described themselves, the picture kind of not as nice, right? Some of them is even, it's like, wow, it look a lot worse than who they really truly look like. And the one that the stranger described is this beautiful woman, nice hair, nice eyes and stuff like that. So the moral of the story is we women are so harsh on ourselves than how the whole world see us. So that's the story behind Dove. And it literally, you guys got to watch this, and the women who were there, they got really emotional. They cried and all the stuff. Watch the story, and that's the power of the story behind the brand. It's not just soap, right? It's the campaign for real beauty and self-acceptance. So here's the tip I want to give you. When you tell your story, you aim at really connect with your audience, really connect with them. It could be something that is a pain point for them, but they may not say it. But because you created this product or these services to solve their problem, you know what they are thinking because you're the creator of the product, right? So connect with them on that emotional level. So these two stories really give you the example that tap into the emotion of human, right? And how you connect with your audience in a way that go far, far, far beyond the product and the services you offer. And what I want to encourage you to do is now is the time to share your story. If you don't join us on Crush It on Camp event, sit down, write your story. Your story, I'm sure every one of your story is powerful, and your story needs to be heard. And that's it for this episode, you all. Until next time, stay tuned for more episodes to come, how to build your brand, how to tell your brand story, and how to create more positive impact in the world by sharing your product, sharing your services. And that's what this channel is all about, y'all. Until next time, next episode, be brave, share your story, keep on improving, and master your product, master your brand. See you in the next episode. Bye for now.